Hi everyone, welcome again to another crochet infusion. Thank you all so much for being here today. So today I'm going to show you how to do the Plague Doctor, which is designed by Aixan Legasto, another one of her fabulous designs. He is to remind us all to stay at home and to keep on washing our hands. So I am going to be doing this Plague Doctor in a different colour tone, simply because it's hard with the black to show you where the stitches are and stuff. So I'm going to go with the grey, with a light grey for you, just purposely for this tutorial. So you would be using a black, white and a skin tone. I'm using all in DK. It's entirely up to you what yarn you're going to use. The pattern does call for a 4 worsted weight yarn, which would be somewhere around about a ran or something. So I'm also using a 3.5mm crochet hook, that's what the pattern calls for, a pair of scissors, 2 eyes, a nose. My eyes are 12mm size, which is the size that the pattern calls for. You can embroidery your eyes if you don't have the safety eyes. And I've also got a nose and a tapestry needle. So to begin with this project, this is done slightly different than the other bears, because with this pattern we're going to be sewing the arms on, as in crocheting them on, rather than sewing them on at the end. So this will really help you to know how to do that as well, which makes things a little bit more fun and different than last time. So I'm going to be using the bare skin tone colour, which mine is the light brown colour. We're going to start with the arms. So to do the arms, you're going to start with a magic ring. So make your magic ring and pick up your tapestry needle. I'm just going to push them to one side. So once you've made your magic ring, you're then going to chain 1, and then you are going to do 6 single crochets into that ring. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and then 6. So now we need to close this ring, so just take your tail and gently pull. And for the next round we do an increase round, which is 2 single crochets into each stitch all the way around. So before we do that, we're going to join this round together by making a slip stitch. So make your slip stitch and just close that circle properly. So it should be like that. So going into the first stitch, not into this stitch here, into this stitch here, you're going to do 2 single crochets. So 1 and then 2 in that same stitch. That's 1 increase. Going into the next stitch and do the same. And you're going to keep doing 2 single crochets in the same stitch all the way around for a total of 12 stitches at the end of this round, and then I will meet you back. Okay, so now you should have 12 stitches on that round. We're now going to do 2 rows for round 3, 2 rows of 1 single crochet in each stitch around for 12 stitches. So going into that very first stitch and do 1 single crochet, into the next of 1 single crochet, and you're going to do that for 2 rounds, and I'll meet you back at the end of round 2. Okay, so once you have got 12 stitches on that round, on that very last stitch, you don't want to complete that last stitch completely. You're just going to act as if you are, so you insert your hook. Normally you would draw your yarn through. This time we're not going to. You're just going to leave your hook there and drop that yarn. And you're going to pick up your black colour, in my case is grey. I suppose you could stick with a different colour if you don't have black, that's entirely up to you. So I'm going to use the grey colour as the black. So you're going to pull that through both of those loops, and we're now switching to the new colour. And now we're going to do a 1 single crochet in and then an increase, so it's 1 single crochet increase, and we're going to do that with the front loop only. So I'm just going to chain 1 to secure that on, and then I'm going to do into the next stitch, 1 single crochet, front loop only, into the next stitch is going to be your increase. At the end of this round you will have 18 stitches, and I'll meet you back at the end of this round. So it's one single crochet and then increase, and just keep working like that to the end of the round for 18 stitches, and I will meet you back. So that last stitch should be your increase of 2 single crochets using the front loop only. So once you have done that round, you will then have 18 stitches in that round. We're now going to move on to the next round of round 5, which is back loop only, 1 single crochet in each stitch for 18 stitches. So going into that first stitch using the back loop only, and it's just 1 single crochet all the way around for 18 stitches, and then I will meet you back and show you what you need to do next, ensuring you are using back loop only stitches for this round. Okay, so once you have finished that round, you're now going to do a total of 7 rows of 1 single crochet for each 18 stitches in each stitch around. So what I like to do here, I'm just going to pop this the other way, so the inside is now on the outside, and then go into that next stitch and do a 1 single crochet. And because this is going to be for 7 rows, what we need to do here, if you don't have a row counter like I have, you're just going to simply put your stitch marker on that first row, and as you continue on each round, as long as you keep a stitch count of 18 stitches in a round, you can then count how many rows you're on. And if you don't have a stitch counter, you could also use a little piece of yarn and just thread it through with the tapestry needle or your crochet hook. And I just thought that was a easy little tip, so you know where the beginning and the end is, and you also then know how many rows you've done, because you will then be able to count. If you look closely, you've got these little bumps of each one is your row, and you need 7 of those for that round. And then I'll meet you back at the end of row 7 and make sure you've got 1 single crochet of 18 stitches in that round. Okay, so because we're working in the rounds, I've now got 7 rows of single crochet going in a round. We started by here and we've ended up here. We're not on line with this, and that is simply because we are working in a round. So don't panic if your stitches are not lining up with your stitch marker. It's simply because we're working in a round, and that is what happens when we're working in rounds. And down here you will notice where your colour change was. If you just go inside there and find that grey yarn, you can just simply pull that. It's quite tight to try and hide that, but when we sew this bear's arm on, we can sew it the other way so you don't see that little bit of the joining just here. So it's not a big problem as such, because you can work with that a little bit. So once you've done 7 rounds of 18 stitches in a round, you can now move your marker out of there, because we're now done with that round. So now we're moving on to the next round, which is a round of decrease. So we're going to be getting this decrease down now. So it's 1 single crochet, and then it's a decrease, and then we'll at the end of that round you will then have 12 stitches at the end of that round. So going into the first stitch, which is a 1 single crochet, and then your next stitch is going to be the decrease. So you insert your hook, pull your yarn through, insert again, pull yarn through, 3 loops on your hook and pull through all 3 loops. That is a 1 decrease, and that will take our stitches down to 12. So keep working like that all the way around until you've got 12 stitches at the end of that round. So the next stitch from the decrease is a 1 single crochet, and then another 1 decrease. And you can put your stitch marker in before you continue on, before you start this round, so you know exactly where you're up to, because you will land on where the stitch marker is at the end of this round. Okay, so you will finish with a decrease right here, and then the next stitch is where my stitch marker is, and you should then have 12 stitches in that round, so just make sure you are counting that you've got 12 stitches at the end of that round. So for the next round, it's now a 1 single crochet, and we're going to do 1 single crochet for one round of just 1 single of 12 stitches, and then you're going to stuff this arm, and then once you've done that, you're then going to start it all over again. So I'm just going to move my stitch marker out, and going into that next stitch is just a 1 single crochet. You can put your stitch marker back in if you wish, and then it's just 1 single crochet, 12 stitches all the way around, and then you're going to stuff. And if you haven't got any toy stuffing, you could use old pieces of material you're not using no more. If you've got an old cushion with stuffing in there, you could use, but if you do use any kind of clothing, I suggest that you cut up any kind of old clothing that you're not using to stuff, or alternatively obviously your toy stuffing. So at the end of this round, you're going to add some stuffing, and then you're going to make the second arm after this one. Also, I just would like to add in there as well is just maybe you would cut a length of this yarn off, just simply because although we're crocheting it onto the body, the bear, just in case you are having difficulties with doing that, I would recommend just cut a length of yarn anyway, and if you do manage to crochet it in as you're going round, you can just simply pop it inside, and then if you are struggling with it the other way around, you can just pull that back out and sew it on as you normally would. So I would recommend just for now just to cut a length of bit of yarn for sewing, and then let's follow the steps back again. If you go back through again at the beginning of making the arm to do your second arm. Okay, so for this next round we're going to start with the legs, and you're going to need to do obviously 2 of these. So to do your legs, you're going to begin by making your magic ring, and then you're going to chain 1, and now you're going to do 6 single crochets into the center of this ring. So insert your hook, pull through, 2 loops on your hook, pull through 2, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6. And then you're going to take this tail and you're going to gently pull, and that will close that center of that ring. And then going into that first stitch just here, right here, you're going to join the round, and you're going to make a slip stitch through that loop, and that is your round joint. And then just get the bottom of that tail and pull again to close that center. So for the next round is going to be an increased round of 12 stitches all the way around. So going into that first stitch right here, you're going to do 2 single crochets in that same stitch, and then into the next stitch another 2 single crochets for your increase. So it's 2 single crochets in each stitch around for a total of 12 stitches, and I will be back at the end of this round. Okay, so once you've got your 12 stitches at the end of that increase round, the next round is going to be a 1 single crochet, and then into the next stitch is going to be your increase, and you're going to do that until you've got a total of 18 stitches in that round. So for the first stitch is going to be a single crochet, so go into that very first stitch and do your 1 single crochet. Into the next stitch, do your increase. You can place a stitch marker here if you wish, so you know where you begin and end, so you know you've got 18 stitches at the end of this round, and I'll meet you back at the end of this round with 18 stitches. Okay, so I'm just finishing the end of that increase round. Your last stitch will be the increase of 2 single crochets in that same stitch. And I'm just going to move my stitch marker out, and just make sure you count your stitches all the way around, making sure you've got 18 stitches. So on the next round is going to be 2 rows of 1 single crochet in each stitch around, and that's going to be for 18 single crochets in that round for 2 rows. So going into that first stitch, that's going to be 1, and then into the next 2, and it's just 1 single crochet all the way around for 2 rows, and I'm just going to stick my stitch marker back in there so I don't go over or to less stitches on these rounds. So 1 round and then another round. I'll meet you back at the end of the second round of 18 stitches of single crochets. Okay, so once you've finished that round of 1 single crochet for 18 stitches for 2 rows, you're now moving on to the next round, and this next round is going to be 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches and then an increase. So going into that next stitch of 1 single crochet, into the next stitch 1 single crochet, and then into that next stitch is going to be your increase of 2 single crochets in that same stitch. You can put your stitch marker in if you wish. So that's my increase 1, 1, and I'm just going to stick my stitch marker just right there. So I've got 1 single increase, and we're going to keep working like that all the way around until we've got 24 stitches at the end of this round. So I'll meet you back at the end of this round with 24 stitches. Okay, so at the end you should then have 24 stitches at the end of that round. So my last stitch is going to be an increase, so I'm just going to finish my increase, and I'm just going to move this stitch marker out of my way. So now I've got 24 stitches in a round, and this is where we started, and I just flip it this way. You can just pull on that tail a little bit to make sure the centre is closed. So moving on to the next round now, we're going to do 5 rows of 1 single crochet in each stitch around for 24 stitches in each stitch around. So the best way to do this, again, if you found that the stitch marker helped by putting it on the first stitch along on the row below, you can continue to do that like we did on the earlier row, or of course you might have a stitch marker or a counter, whichever, but it's 1 single crochet for 5 rows, and I'll meet you back at the end of that 5 rows. On that very last stitch on the 5 row is where we're going to switch and change colour, so that very last stitch you don't want to completely close that, but I'll be back right before we get to that point anyway. So 5 rows of single crochet for 24 stitches. Okay, so at the end of that round you are going to have 24 stitches. I've got 1 stitch left to make that 24. I'm just going to insert my hook, and then I'm just going to drop my yarn. Now I'm going to pick up my colour. In your case it's going to be black, mine is grey. And you're just going to place that over your hook, and you're going to pull that through the first loop and then through to the second loop, and then go into that very next stitch and do a 1 single crochet, and then into the next stitch 1 single crochet, and it's just 1 single crochet all the way around in your new colour for 24 stitches, and then you're going to go round again one more time of 24 stitches, so it's 2 rows of single crochet, and that is the end for your leg. You need to then repeat that again for your second leg. I would recommend for your first leg just to cut a bit of yarn in case you might need it later on. For the second leg that you do not cut the yarn, because you're going to continue on in that the colour, the black in your case, in my case the grey. We're going to continue on in that colour for attaching the legs together, so do not cut that second piece of yarn at the second leg. So just finish off at 2 rounds of single crochet in your colour, and then I will be back to show you what you need to do next at the end of my second row. Just before I move on to the second round in the colour, in your case would be black, if you pull the back of that grey, you will notice that that very first stitch will almost disappear. If I just show you, so if you pull, that stitch will practically disappear, and you don't want that, so don't pull that in just yet. So go into that very next stitch. And I think this is why a lot of people are saying I am not getting 24 stitches no matter how many times I try. And I think that could be somewhere where some people are going wrong on this round. I'm not saying it's wrong to do that, but I'm saying that that stitch will sink in and that will make it very difficult to see where your next stitches are. So that's now stitch 1 and then 2 on the second row. So you should have 24 stitches all the way around, and just be sure on that. And then once you have done that second row, then you can pull on that colour yarn to make sure that that colour is tied in nicely, just like so. Okay, so I just thought I'd share that with you all before moving on to the next round. So just keep continuing of 1 single crochet all the way around, 24 stitches for 2 rows. Okay, so once you've got 24 stitches on that last round of doing 2 rows, in your case of black, I'm using grey, we're now going to want to get both of these legs and connect them together. So I would recommend not to cut this black yarn, grey yarn. Don't cut that off your second leg, but you can off your first leg and just simply put that remaining piece of yarn inside the leg there. Also, yes, go ahead and cut the skin colour tone because you're not needing that right this minute. So now we're going to go and connect these two together. So I have basically fastened this yarn off and just stuck the tail end inside the leg. So keeping your hook attached to the last single crochet that you just did on that last leg that you made, you're going to insert your hook into this. This is on my last row where I finished here. I'd done a chain 1 to fasten off. I'm just going to go into this stitch right here on the top row. I'm just going to insert my hook right into there, keeping my hook attached, the yarn attached to the hook. I'm going to pull that through and pull through again, so that's just made a slip stitch to join that together. So now I'm going to go into this first stitch, and this is stitch 1. So that's 1, into the next 2, 3, 4, and you're going to do this until you've got 48 stitches all the way around, because you've got 24 stitches on the leg you did first and 24 stitches on the leg you did last. So we're just going to do 1 single crochet in each stitch around this leg of both legs for a total of 48 stitches. And I'm just going to stay with you for this part to ensure that everyone is happy with their stitches, because it can be quite confusing, especially when you're a beginner, for doing this part of the joining the legs together. It can be a little bit tricky, and sometimes you might end up with more stitches than you originally wanted. So I just thought if I stay with you to help you guys out with this part. So just keep doing your 1 single crochet all the way around, because we're going to go on to the next leg for the 1 single crochet as well, giving that an extra round. So we're just coming up to where I'd done the slip stitch. Remembering where I put my first stitch. So I'm just going to put my last stitch in into here, and then as you can see, that's where our slip stitch was to begin with. It's a little bit loose. You're just going to go straight into that first stitch on that second leg and do another 1 single crochet, and then into the next. And you should then have a total of 48 stitches at the end of this round. So keep doing your 1 single crochet all the way around. And it can be very tricky for people, especially when you're a beginner or you've never done amigurumis before. You know, people do struggle quite a lot, and that's the idea of me doing this tutorial for you all, to help you all out with this. beautiful bears that Aixan Legasto has given me permission to do, which is such a privilege to do for her and you and everybody to join in and do these cute, fantastic bears. So I'm just coming to the end now. As you can see, I've just got a few last little stitches to do, and that is the last stitch, and then you're going to go straight into that first stitch on the opposite side, and just be sure to count. You have got 48 stitches at the end of that round. So then I'm just now going to count my stitches to make sure I've got 48 stitches all the way around, and then I will be back. Okay, so to make sure I've got 48 stitches, I said to go into this one here. We are actually going to go into the second one along, because that first one is where we joined that round. So that is now 48 stitches in that round. So for the next round, once you're happy with 48 stitches all the way around, we're now going to do a 1 single crochet for a total of 3 rows of this round. So going into that next stitch, so that's classed as a 1, and then into the next for 2, 3, and you can put a stitch marker in if you like, but remembering we are working in rounds, but you want to make sure you've got 48 stitches for 3 rows, and I'll be back at the end of the third round of 1 single crochet for 48 stitches. Okay, so halfway through doing this round for your 3 rows, I'm just going to quickly show you. I've just finished one leg of 24 stitches, so if I was to go into this stitch right here, I'm then going to have too many stitches again. So you're just going to basically ignore that stitch and go straight into that following stitch, and that is going to be 1 for your next leg, and then into the next stitch for 2, and just keep working like that for another 24 stitches in that round, giving you a total of 48 stitches. So just be sure of that as you're working around, because I think that's where a lot of people end up with more stitches and they don't understand how they've done that. So that is where the problem is. So just keep working around, and then I'll meet you back at the end of that round for 3 rows. Okay, so by skipping that little back piece at the very back there, I'm now at 22, and then 23, and then that very last one just there for 24. So that is 24 stitches on both sides for 48 stitches. So that's round 1 done, and now I'm going to do another 2 rounds of single crochet for the 3 rows, and then I will be back. So I just thought I would show you those bits there and there, because that is quite awkward to ensure that your stitch count is correct evenly for each round. So 3 rounds with 1 single crochet, and then I'll be back. Okay, so once you are happy and you have got 48 stitches in every single stitch going all the way around, and you've got your 3 rounds of single crochet done, we're now ready to move on to the next round. I do apologise for the trickiness of attaching the legs on. It is pretty difficult for me to show you on camera. I hope you understood when I mentioned about skipping just that 1 stitch on that round, but then after that it is then every single crochet all the way around, and that will help to keep your stitches at 48 stitches all the way around, and I hope you understood that. I did try my very best to try and explain. It just seems to be every time I get to that part, I really struggle when I try and explain that to you guys, how to get that stitch count exactly right to how you want it. So anyway, moving on to the next round is going to be front loop only, 1 single crochet in the next 7 stitches, and then an increase, and we're going to increase this round up to 54 stitches. So don't worry, I'm going to walk you through this next part. So you're going to go into that very next stitch. You can put a stitch marker in if you wish, but I'm just going to show you this now. Into that very next stitch of the front loop only, and that's going to be a 1 single crochet, and you're going to do that for 7 stitches. That's 1 into the next front loop, 2 front loop, 3, 4 front loop, 5 front loop, 6 front loop, and then the last one, 7 front loop. And then we're going to do an increase, and that increase is going to be in the front loop as well. So 1 and then 2, and that's your increase. So I'm just going to count back 7 stitches, pretending I didn't do that one there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and I'm just going to pop my stitch marker right into there so I know where I'm up to. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, increase. Okay, so that's what we're going to do all the way around for this row for a total of 54 stitches. And I'll be back at the end of that round. So after you've done your increase, 7 again, increase, front loop only, and I'll meet you back. 54 stitches at the end of this round. Okay, so once you have got your 54 stitches at the end of that round, we're now going to go on to the next round, and onto that very first stitch on the next stitch, you're going to do a back loop single crochet, and you're going to do 1 single crochet of back loop only all the way around for 54 stitches, and I'll meet you back at the end of this round. So making sure you're catching that very back loop, which is the loop furthest away from you, and 1 single crochet for 54 stitches, and then I'll be back. Okay, so at the end of that round of your back loop stitch for 54 stitches all the way around, it's now going to be 1 single crochet going through both of those loops for a total of 54 stitches for one round. So going into that very first stitch, going through both of those loops front and back, and it's 1 single crochet in each stitch for one round for 54 stitches, and I will be back at the end of this round. Okay, so at the end of that round of your 1 single crochet 54 stitches, we're now going to do a round of decrease. So going into that very next stitch of a 1 single crochet, you're going to go through both loops as before, no back loop or front loop on this round. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then the last one is going to be 7. So it's 7 single crochets, and then you're going to do your decrease, because we want to get this down to 48 stitches. So to do your decrease, insert your hook, pull yarn through into the next stitch, pull your yarn through, 3 loops on the hook, pull through all 3 loops. So that's 1 decrease, and then you're going to continue working like that all the way around for 48 stitches. So next, after you decrease, you're going to go straight into the next stitch, and then the next stitch for 7 single crochets and then a decrease, and I'll meet you back at the end of that round and you will have 48 stitches. Okay, so once you've got your 48 stitches at the end of that round, you're now going to do 2 rows of 1 single crochet for 48 stitches in that round. So you're going to go straight into the next stitch, and that's going to be 1. You can use a stitch marker if you wish. Go into the next 2, and you're just going to keep going in each stitch all around for 2 rows 48 stitches, and I will meet you back at the end of the second round. Okay, so once you have done your 2 rounds of 48 stitches, we're now going to go and do another round of decrease. So for this decrease round, it's going to be 1 single crochet in the next 6 stitches. So go straight into that next stitch, and that's going to be 1, into the next 2, 3, 4, 5 and then 6, and then you're going to do your decrease. So insert, pull yarn through into the next, insert, pull yarn through, 3 loops on your hook, pull through all 3. You're going to keep working like that all the way around for a total of 42 stitches. So remember, in the next stitch from your decrease is going to be another 6 single crochets and then decrease, and I'll meet you back at the end of that round, and you will have 42 stitches at the end of that round. Okay, so once you have finished that round of decrease of your single crochets with your decrease, you should now have 42 stitches at the end of that round. So now we're going to do 2 rows of 1 single crochet for 42 stitches. So just by simply going into the next stitch of a 1 single crochet, 1 single crochet all the way around for 2 rounds, and I'll meet you back at the end of that round. Okay, so at the end of that round you will have 42 stitches of 2 rows of single crochet. We're now going to do the next round of a decrease, so going into that next stitch of 1, and we're going to do that for 5 single crochets. That's 2, 3, 4 and then 5, and then you're going to do your decrease. And same as the other round, you then continue on for the next 5 stitches and then do your decrease again, and I'll meet you back at the end of this round. You will have 36 stitches and I'll meet you back. Okay, so at the end of that round you will have 36 single crochets all the way around. Going into the next stitch, we're just going to do a round of 1 single crochet in each stitch for 36 stitches, and I'll meet you back at the end of this round. So at the end of that round of 36 stitches of single crochet, we're now going to do another round of decrease. So it's 1 single crochet in the next 4 stitches and then a decrease. So going straight into that next stitch. So that's 1, do that again, 1, 2, 3 and then 4, and same as before, work your decrease and then another 4, and that will give you a total of 30 stitches at the end of that round. So once you have got that down to 30 stitches, we're now going to get this down to 24 stitches by doing 3 single crochets in each stitch and then a decrease. So as before of the round before, going into that next stitch of a 1 single crochet, into the next 2 and then 3, and then do your decrease, and then keep continuing on like that all the way around for 24 stitches, and I'll meet you back at the end of that round. Okay, so once you've got your 24 stitches in a round on that row, we're now going to make a start on attaching the arms on this row. Now this is where we're going to crochet the arms on. If you find this a real struggle, please refer to one of my other videos of doing the bear to sew on the arms towards the end of the tutorial. On the first Frontline Hero bear tutorial's fine, or the stay at home bear, but this is another method of attaching arms on, and I thought it would be a great way to show you all how to attach the arms on by crochet. So once you have stuffed your arms, if you did fasten off and left a tail, you will notice that you've got a knot here. So we're actually going to take this knot out from the arm. So just gently get your tapestry needle and pull that knot out. And if yours is already inside the stuffing, if you can find that knot, just make sure that you don't lose any of your stitches, and just double check you've got 12 stitches on your arm. So once, I'm just going to pick that out slightly, that's it. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to make this a little bit easier for you all to sew the arms on, to crochet the arms on. So I'm going to put my hook back in, and I'm going to squash it either side, because that 12 is now down to 6, and we're going to do 1 single crochet in each stitch from the front and the back of them stitches of doing single crochet of 6 single crochets on each side, but they have to line up completely. So to do that, we're going to go into that very first stitch and then to that very first stitch at the side, pull your yarn through and do a 1 single crochet. So that's 1 into the next, 2. If your stuffing is in the way, just give it a little push out the way, and that's 3, 4, 5, and then into that very last stitch, which it is a little difficult to get into, but you will get there, and that's 6. So now you've got 6 single crochets there now, and I am just going to fasten that off, and I'm just going to pull that. I'll probably sew this in later on, but for the sake of the tutorial I'm just going to show you what you need to do now. So to attach the first arm on that I've just done that, you want to do that with your second arm if you can. My tail end is actually inside, so I will go back and unpick the tail end out and maybe put a bit more stuffing in so it's the same as the other arm. So we're going to now, you should have now 24 stitches in the round from the last round. You're going to go into the next stitch and you're going to do 5 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then that very last one for 5. And this is where we're going to attach our little arm on. So it's entirely up to you which way you want it, but there is where the colour joined on, so I'm just going to turn it this way, and I'm just going to go straight through that first stitch that I made earlier with you just a minute ago, and try not to, I'm just going to have to slip stitch through, and just remember about your tension a little bit when you're working like this, so just pull that quite tight as you can. And you're just going to turn that now, so the arm is now facing the outer side, facing you. So you're going to go straight through that first stitch again, making sure you go in the same space, and do your first 1 single crochet. And then you're going to go into the next stitch, and then into the next stitch that on the body as well as the arm, pull through, do another single crochet, so that's 2, into the next, and into the next, that's 3, into the next, and that's 4, and then 5, and then into that very last one for 6, so that is your arm now attached on. So now we're going to go back round this way and we're going to attach the next arm on. So I'm just going to sort this second arm out, and then I'll be back to show you how to set up the next arm. So just leave it there and I'll be back. Okay, so now I'm ready to move on because I've just sorted the second arm. So now we're going to go into the next 6 stitches. So remembering where that last stitch was that you went into, you want to go into that next stitch, and that's 1, into the next, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then for that last one of 6. And now this is where we're going to attach on the second arm. And we're going to do 1 single crochet in the next 6 stitches with the arm. So once again we are going to attach the arm on by going through your first stitch that you made, and like I tend to do a slip stitch here and turn, so now the arm is facing me, and I'm going to go straight back through that same stitch again on both all the way through where I done that slip stitch and do a 1 single crochet straight on top of that slip stitch, and then into the next stitch. So that's 1, 2, into the next for 3, and then into the next for 4, and then 5, and then into that very last one for 6. And then you're going to do a 1 single crochet in the remaining of 1 single crochet in the remaining 24 stitches. So going into that next stitch, remembering not to go into the same stitch as the arm, into the next stitch of 1, 2, 3, keep working like this until you've got 24 stitches on the end of that round, and I'll be back to show you for the next round. Okay, so on that previous round, after we've sewn the second arm on, I said to continue for 24 stitches. Actually, I am wrong there, sorry about that. All you're going to do is 1 single crochet into the next stitch, which will give you a total of 24 stitches on that round. So you should now have a total of 24 stitches in that round. So for the next round, we're going to do a round of row 1 of 1 single crochet for 24 stitches in that round, and then I'll be back to show you what you need to do next. So going straight into that next stitch of a 1 single crochet all the way around for 24 stitches. Okay, so if you are having difficulty for sewing your arms on, well, crocheting your arms on the rounds, you can just do that later on if you wish, and sew them on later. So next we're now going to be moving on to the head. So we're going to continue on from the body, but we're going to change yarn now back to the skin tone colour that you've been using. So I'm just going to insert my hook into that next stitch and drop my yarn, and I'm going to pick up my skin tone colour, attach on my new colour, so pull through and pull through. So we're now going to do a increase round for 48 stitches all the way around. So we're going to go into that next stitch and we're going to do 2 single crochets, and it's 2 single crochets all the way around until you've got 48 stitches at the end of that round, and I'll meet you back. So once you've done your increase round and you've got 48 stitches, you're now going to do 1 single crochet in each stitch around for 48 stitches. Okay, so once you've got 48 single crochets all the way around for the head, I'm now going to stop right here and start stuffing my bear on the inside of the body before we get too far, and then it will get awkward to do any stuffing. So now is the time to start stuffing your bear, and I'll be back to show you what you need to do for the next round. If your bear is already stuffed and you want to move on to the next round, it's 1 single crochet in the next 7 stitches and then increase, and you will have a total of 54 stitches, but I'll come back and repeat that again after I've stuffed anyway. Okay, so my bear is now all stuffed. You might need to stuff some more, well, you will need to stuff more again when we get on with the head. But if I was you, you don't have to, but I've just noticed that my stitches along here are looking quite open. So I'm going to be using this tail yarn that's attached from the arms later on to tie this in so you can't really see them loose stitchings. That is just optional if you wanted to do that. But anyway, moving on to the next round now. We're now going to do 1 single crochet in the next 7 stitches and then an increase until we have a total of 54 stitches at the end of this round. You should have 48 right now. So going on to the next stitch, you're going to do a 1 single crochet for the next 7 stitches and then do your increase. And you might want to place a stitch marker onto here so you know how many stitches you've got going around. Okay, so for this next round you're going to do 1 single crochet in each stitch around for 9 rows, and that's 54 stitches of single crochets for 9 rows. So going into that next stitch would be 1, and you're going to do 1 single crochet each stitch around for 54 stitches for 9 rows. I'll meet you back at the end of the 9th row. So once you've got your 9 rows of 54 stitches in the round, we're now going to start on doing decreasing. So we're now going to be working on a decreasing round. So basically for this next round is going to be 1 single crochet into the next 7 stitches and then do a decrease. I'll do the first one with you and then you can take it from there for the rest of the round. So going into that first stitch, that's going to be 1, 2 into the next, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then the last one for 7, and then you're going to do your decrease. So insert your hook, pull your yarn through, 2 loops on the hook, into the next stitch, pull your yarn through, 3 loops on the hook, and pull through all 3 of those loops. So that is a decrease, and then it's 7 single crochets again, and then do your decrease. And I'll meet you back at the end of this round, and you will have 48 stitches at the end of this round. Okay, so once you've got your 48 stitches in that round, you're now just going to do a 1 single crochet all the way around for for the next row. So it's just 1 single crochet all the way around, 48 stitches, and I'll meet you back at the end of that round. Okay, so at the end of that round, once you've finished that 1 single crochet all the way around, 48 stitches, you're now going to do another round of decrease. So we're now going to do 1 single crochet into the next 6 stitches and then do your decrease. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then last one for 6, and then do your decrease. So insert, pull your yarn through, 2 loops on the hook, insert, pull through, 3 loops on the hook, pull through all 3 loops, and then 6 single crochets again, and then do a decrease. And at the end of that round you will have 42 stitches, and I'll meet you back at the end of that round. Okay, so after that round of decrease, it's now just going to be a 1 single crochet all the way around for 42 stitches, and I'll meet you back at the end of that round. Okay, so at the end of that round of 42 stitches of 1 single crochet all the way around, we're now going to do another round of a decrease. So it's going to be 1 single crochet into the next stitch for the next 5 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then do your decrease, and keep working like that all the way around until you have a total of 36 stitches, and I'll meet you back at the end of that round. Okay, so now you should have 36 stitches at the end of that round of decrease. We're now going to do another round of decrease. So we're going to do 1 single crochet into the next 4 stitches. So going into that next stitch and do 4 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4, then do your decrease. At the end of that round you will have 30 stitches, and I'll meet you back at the end of this round. Okay, so now you should have 30 stitches after the end of that round. We're now going to get this down to 24 stitches, so we're going to do 1 single crochet into the next stitch for the next 3 stitches, so 1, 2, 3, and then do your increase and work like that all the way around until you've got 24 stitches, and I'll meet you back at the end of that round. Okay, so now you should then have 24 stitches at the end of that round. So now we're going to do 2 single crochet stitches and then do a decrease, and that will give you 18 stitches. So 1, 2, 1, 2, then decrease, and I'll meet you back at the end of that round with 18 stitches. Okay, so now you should have 18 stitches from that round. You now want to stuff the head if you haven't already. I'm just going to stuff mine now, and then once I've stuffed the head and you've stuffed your head, if you've already stuffed your head you might be ready to move on. It's just now going to be one single crochet, then a decrease until the end of that round, and you'll have 12 stitches. And I'll meet you back once you've got your 12 stitches. So it's just one single crochet, then decrease, and repeat that round until you've got 12 stitches. Okay, so once you have done that and you have got 12 stitches in that round, I have actually run out of the stuffing, toy stuffing. I've got none of that left. So I've just finished off stuffing it in with a little bit of scrap yarn that I'm not using no more, which is always comes in handy to keep little stragglers that you make from other projects for when things like that happen. Luckily I had some lighter yarn to use for this project. So I'm really happy about that. So moving on to the next round is just going to be decreasing all the way around, which will give you 6 stitches, and then you're just going to simply sew that hole closed. So just going into the next stitch, and just go straight in there and do decreases all the way around, and you will have 6 stitches, and then just simply get your tapestry needle or use your crochet hook and just sew the hole at the top, and then we'll move on to the next round. Okay, so once you have sewn the head together, I'm just going to show you a little trick. You're just going to chain one, and then you're just going to pull from that chain one and pull that out, and that will make a little knot. And then you're going to get your tapestry needle and attach that onto the tail end, and we're just going to insert the tapestry needle straight inside the head and come out anywhere around by the back, and just simply pull that out and take that off, and just get your scissors, and you're just going to cut that quite close to the head, and that is your head sewn in nicely. So now we can move on to the next round, and I'll show you what we need to do next. Okay, so now we're going to be working on the next part of the bear, which is the skirt. So we're going to do a one single crochet in each stitch for 54 stitches for a total of 13 rows, and you're going to do that on the loops on the outer side here of the front loops that we made earlier on. So just simply insert your hook into that very first stitch that you can find of the exposed loops, insert your hook, and then you're going to touch on your black yarn. Once again, in my case I'm using the grey, and you want to make sure that your bear is positioned facing you, and you need to make sure it is the back of your bear, not the front. If you just turn your bear either way, you will realise which way is the front and the back for you, whichever side you want the front and the back. So this is the back of my bear, and I'm going to have them face it, the head facing towards me, and then insert your hook, and then you're going to fasten on with your colour of black, and then you're just going to hold that yarn in place around the hook. So I'll just do that for you to show. So all I'm going to do is hold the yarn over the hook, bring that round and hold onto that tail as well, and I'm just going to simply pull, and then you're going to do one single crochet in each stitch around of your bear. So go into the next stitch, and you should have 54 stitches at the end of this round, and you're going to do this for 13 rounds. Once you've managed to attach your yarn on, just pull it slightly here and then go into each stitch, into the next stitch, and do another single crochet. So you just keep doing that for 13 rows, and you should have 54 stitches in that round, and I'll meet you back at the end of that round. Okay, so once you've got your 54 stitches of 13 rows of your skirt, it should be looking like this now, quite long. So now we're going to fasten this off, so just go into that next stitch and make a slip stitch. So insert your hook and pull through, and just chain one, and then you're just going to get your scissors and you're just going to cut that piece of yarn and then fasten that off. Just push that and that will make a little knot. So now I'm just going to weave the ends in at the bottom of the skirt, and I'm going to show you how I do my weaving ends, just to give you a little bit of help. So attach your tapestry needle onto your yarn, and where you can see the top of these stitches, you just want to go through these stitches along the bottom, just like weave them in and out, and just pull that through. You can do this for however long you want it, until you feel quite satisfied that it's secure, but I go so far and then I'm going to go back through the inside. So make sure your tapestry needle has come through onto the inside before you work on the inside, otherwise you're going to have a groove here and you don't want that. So going through the fibres on the inside now, and we're just going to weave that in on the inside, and you can do this until you are happy that it's secure. And just before I'm going to finish with this, I'm going to put my tapestry needle through that loop, and I'm just going to do that one more time, and then just simply pull that yarn quite tight, and that's made another little knot. And then I'm just going to just simply pull, and then I'm just going to cut as close as I can just to there, and that is our ends sewn in on the inside. So now, once you are happy with your ends being sewn in on there, you can just put your bear to the side, and now we're going to work on doing the ears. So you're going to need to make 2 of these little ears, and I'll show you how to do your ear, your first one. So your 3.5mm crochet hook and your yarn of the skin tone colour that you're using, and we're going to start with a magic ring. So make your magic ring, and then you're going to chain 1, and then you're going to do 6 single crochets into that ring. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the last one for 6. Going to take your tail end, just going to pull that out that way, out of the loop, take your tail end, and then you're just going to close that loop, and then you're going to join your round together by going into this first stitch right here and do a slip stitch and pull that closed, and then that is your magic ring. So for the next round, we're going to do an increased round of 2 single crochets in each stitch around, giving us 12 stitches at the end of that round. So going into that very first stitch, we're going to do 2 single crochets. That's 1 and then 2, and then 2 again. So 2 single crochets in each stitch around for your increased round for 12 stitches at the end of that round. Okay, so once you've got your 12 stitches, you're now going to do another round of an increase to get this up to 18. So going into the next stitch, you're going to do 1 single crochet, and then into the next stitch you're going to do your increase of 2 single crochets. Keep working like this all the way around until you've got 18 stitches at the end of this round. Now you've got 18 stitches, you now want to get this up to 24, and to do that we're going to do one single crochet in the next 2 stitches. So go into that next stitch, that's 1, and then into the next for 2, and then your increase, and keep working like that all the way around until you've got 24 stitches. Okay, so now you've got your 24 stitches in that round, we're now going to do 2 rows of 1 single crochet of 24 stitches. I'll meet you back at the end of the second round. Don't forget to use a stitch marker if you need to use a stitch marker, and if you don't have a stitch marker, use a little piece of yarn of another colour, and I'll meet you back at the end of the 2 rows of the single crochets for 24 stitches. Okay, so once you have done that last 2 rounds of 24 stitches in that round, we're now going to work on doing a decrease round. So it's 1 single crochet into the next 2 stitches, so going into the next stitch, so 1 and then into the next for 2, and then do your decrease, insert, pull through into the next stitch, pull through 3 loops on your hook, pull through all 3. Keep working like that all the way around until you have got 18 stitches. Okay, so now you've got 18 stitches. This is going to be your last decrease round of 1 single crochet and then do a decrease, and that will give you 12 stitches at the end of this round. Remember to use your stitch marker so you don't lose where you're up to. So it's just 1 single crochet and then a decrease for a total of 12 stitches. Okay, so now you need to follow all those steps again for your next ear. But just at the end here, I'm just going to fasten off, so go into that next stitch and just make a little slip stitch and just chain 1, and then just simply cut your yarn some length for sewing, and hold there, and then just simply pull that through, and then you've got your little tail end for sewing in. I also like to just turn this inside the other way, so this is where we started from the magic ring, and I'm just going to turn it this way, and I will sew my ear on that way round. And then when you come to sewing your ear, you are just want to hide that tail inside, or you can sew it in, whichever you prefer, and then you will just close it so then in half, and then when you sew it onto your bear's head, it will be sewn on like this way. And that is the ear done, and now we will move on to the next part. Okay, so for this next part, we're now going to sew on the ears, and your ears are going to be sewn on vertically when they are attached to the head. So to begin, to position your ears in the right place, I like to use these little pins, and basically you've got to count down from the center of the head and count 7 down, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7, and place a pin, and do the same for the opposite side. And when you are happy that you've got 7 either side, you want to make sure your stitches in between both ears is 26 stitches apart. So you need to make sure you're counting for 26 stitches in between from one ear to the next, so from the top 7 stitches down for either side, and then 26 across. That will then, if you put these pins in place, that will then give you the right places where your ears need to be sewn on. So once you are ready to sew your ears on, and you've positioned that in place where you want your ears to be, you're then going to put your tapestry needle on the end of the bear's ear, and we're going to sew this for 6 stitches down, which is why I folded this in half, because we've now got 6 stitches on there. And I'm just going to insert right through where that pin is and just take that out, and then pull that up like so, and then you're just going to go straight through both sides. It's a little hard to show you how to sew on the ears, and then making sure you're going through the bear's head as well, just through the fibres of the crochets, and you're just going to sew that down until you have got 6 stitches down, and then I'll be back once both ears are on, and then we'll move on to the next part. Okay, so once you are happy with your ears, I'm just going to show you quickly just here. If you look, I have got 6 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 stitches. So I go through in onto the other side, and then I come and I join it to the head, and then back through this way, and then through again this way, and that is the way I've done it, working downways. It is a little tricky if you're new to this, but the more practice you do, the easier it will become. Remembering on that very last stitch at the bottom you need to fasten off, and once you have fastened off, I'm just going to quickly show you how I fasten off my ear. So just insert it anywhere on the ear, not anywhere where it's too obvious. You can see that you're fastened off. You don't want that. You're just going to go through that loop again like we did earlier. I'm going to make a little knot, pull it as tight as you can, and I'm just going to go straight through Teddy's head and come out of the back and just simply pull that out and cut. So that is one ear attached on, and you can just squish it around and you won't be able to tell that where your ear has been joined on here. So you need to do the same for the next ear, making sure you've got 26 stitches apart and 7 stitches from the top to the sides. And I'll be back to show you what you need to do for the next round. Okay, so next we're going to do the embroidery of the little nose. So the nose that you're going to count, if you've got these pins, it's really helpful. You're going to count from the bottom here, 7 up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, somewhere where you feel is the middle of the face of your bear. And then you're going to put a pin right in there, and then 2 rows up you're going to put another pin, and you're going to count 3 across this way, 1, 2, 3, put a pin, and the same again for the other side, 1, 2, 3, put a pin, because it's 6 stitches wide. And then the next row we're going to do a little smaller row, and then until, well, it's 2 rows, so it's 2 rows of 6, and then the last little dot at the end for the last row. So when you start doing the nose, once you've positioned your pins in place, if you don't have any kind of pins, maybe you might be able to mark it with something else, like a stitch marker or something. So you're going to go straight through the back of the head with your tapestry needle. You need to cut a bit of length of black yarn, and you're going to go straight through. And we're going to come out on one of these ends here. So I'm going to aim for this end here. I'm just going to push my tapestry needle, and that's not where we want to go. It's sometimes a little difficult. So okay, I'm in that same stitch now where that pin is, so that pin can now just come straight out, and so can the next. And I'm just going to pull that through. You don't want to pull it all the way right through the head, but you want to make sure you stop when it goes into the head. So we're just going to stop about there, because once we've done the tapestry of the nose, we can just push that in with the tapestry needle. So now we're going to go to the 6th stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we're just going to go straight into that, and we're going to come out of that first stitch we went into to begin with, and just simply pull. That's 1. I like to do this twice, but you can do just 1 if you like. It's entirely up to you. And now we want to go down to the next row. So I'm going to go a stitch in now. I'm going to go from this stitch in and come out of the 3rd stitch, just right there. Just pull that, and then I'm going to go back through again. Just keep pulling. You want to make sure you don't knot your yarn on accident, so I'm just going to take that out so it's free again, and just gently pull. You don't want to pull these too tight, by the way. So I'm just going to do that twice. Just pull that through again, and that is the nose done. So now we can just take out that needle, and that is your nose complete. So all you want to do here now, you want to keep this length of yarn on that you've already still got attached to your tapestry needle, and you're going to just pop straight back inside of your teddy bear, and we're going to come out ready for the eyes. And I'm not sure what row we're on for the eyes. I'm just going to go there now. The eyes is one row above the nose, so we're going to go above one row above the nose, and we're going to skip one stitch on each side. Skip one stitch each side of the nose and start sewing the back of the yarn forth until desired thickness, and the eyes are 2 rows high. So to do that, we're going to go row above, which would be here, and we're going to do it for 2 rows above. So I'm just going to put that one there, and I'm going to come straight out where that pin is. I can move that out now and just keep pulling, not too tight, and it's 2 rows high, so 1 and 2. We're going to insert, and we're going to come back out where we went in, which is just here. And I've gone wrong because I'm supposed to do it 1 row past the nose, so I do actually need to correct that. Sorry about that. Just go back inside, and I'll do the next eye just to show you, and I will sort that out at the end of the tutorial. So there's the end, and you want to come out of the row. So there's the end, and that's the next row, and then 1, 2, and we're going to come out just here. Just go straight in, and then we're going to do 2 rows above, so 1 and 2, and you're going to come straight out where you went in. And that is your eyes done. I do need to sort that eye out, and I will sort that out. You can go back over that if you like, if you want that a little bit thicker. So just do it one more time. And there's his little eyes. So next you're going to, when you've finished, just go straight back in, and then you want to come out at the back. Anywhere in the back is fine, and my inside yarn strands have just decided to pop out. Never mind, I can cut that off. So I'm just going to cut, and then just use the end of your tapestry needle and poke that back inside. So ignore that first eye, it's 1 stitch across, my mistake, but that's where your eye will go, and then come back through and do your second eye, and then we'll move on to the next part. Okay, so once you've finished with your embroidery, I've just gone over mine a little bit more just to make it a little bit thicker, and as you can see at the back there's no sign of any yarns hanging anywhere. I've cut it all and I've poked it back inside, so that's the little face now done. So moving on to the next round now, we're going to start on the little hat, and in your case you will be working with black yarn. Me, I'm working on the grey. So we're going to start by doing a magic ring, your 3.5mm crochet hook, and then take your ring off your finger and chain 1. Now we're going to do 6 single crochets into this ring, and the next round it's going to be an increased round of 2 single crochets in each stitch all the way around for 12. So do your 6 first into the ring of single crochets, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6, and then you're going to pull that tail, join that round by making a slip stitch into that very first stitch, chain 1, pull that ring again so that centre's closed, going into the next stitch, and you're going to do 2 single crochets all the way around for 12 stitches, and I'll meet you back at the end of the 12th stitch. Okay, so now you've got 12 stitches. We're now going to get this up to 18 stitches. So into the next stitch you're going to do a 1 single crochet, and then into the next stitch is going to be your increase until you get to 18 stitches at the end of this round, and then I'll meet you back. Okay, so you now should have 18 stitches at that round. We're going to do another increase round of 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches. So into the next stitch of 1 single crochet, into the next stitch for 1 single crochet, and then do your increase, and that will give you a total of 24 stitches at the end of this round. So now you should have 24 stitches at the end of this round. We're now going to get this up to 30. So going into the next stitch of a 1 single crochet, into the next stitch for a 1 single crochet, and then into the next stitch of a 1 single crochet, that's 3 single crochets, and then do your increase of 2 single crochets in the same stitch. Keep working like that all the way around until you've got 30 stitches. Okay, so now you've got 30 stitches on that round. We now want to get this up to 36. So we're going to do 1 single crochet into the next stitch, and then into the next stitch, that's 2, into the next 3, and 1 more for 4. So it's 4 single crochets in each stitch, and then do your increase, and this will give you a total of 36 stitches at the end of this round. Okay, so now you should have 36 stitches at the end of this round. For the next round we're going to do 5 stitches of single crochet and then an increase, so 1 2 3 4 5, increase all the way around for 42 stitches, and I'll meet you back. Okay, so now you should have 42 stitches in that round going around. We're now going to do a 1 single crochet using the back loop only for 1 single crochet of 42 stitches in that round. So going straight into that next stitch using the back loop, so you're going to go straight into that back loop for 1, and then into the next 2, 3, and just keep working like that all the way around until you've got 42 stitches. Okay, so once you've done your back loop stitch of 1 single crochet in the round, you will notice you've got this little groove going on here. So anyway, moving on to the next round, you're going to do 3 rows of single crochet all the way around for 42 stitches. It's just going straight through of that single crochet, no front loop or back loop, just going straight in of 1 single crochet in each stitch around for 3 rows at 42 stitches, and I'll meet you back at the end of row 3. Okay, so now you should have 3 rounds of your 42 stitches. We're now going to do a round of decreases now. So we're going to do a 1 single crochet in the next 5 stitches and then do your decrease. So going straight into that very next stitch of 1, 2, 3, 4, and then last one for 5, and then we're going to do a decrease. So insert your hook, pull yarn through into the next stitch, pull yarn through, 3 loops on the hook and pull through all 3 loops, and that is a decrease. So we're going to do that for every 5 stitches, so 1 2 3 4 5, decrease all the way around until you've got a total of 36 stitches at the end of that round. Okay, so now you should have 36 stitches. We're now going to do a total of 1 round of just single crochet in this next round. So go straight into that next stitch and do a 1 single crochet, and it's just 1 single crochet all the way around for 36 stitches, and I'll meet you back. Okay, so once you've finished that round of 1 single crochet of 36 stitches, we're now going to work using the front loop only stitch, and we're going to be working on an increase round. So it's going to be 5 stitches and then your increase, and you're going to do that all the way around using the front loop only. So going into that very first stitch using your front loop of 1, 2, 3, and then 4, last one for 5, and then your increase as well, that was using front loop as well as the other stitches. And you're going to keep working like this all the way around until you have a total of 42 stitches, and I'll meet you back at the end of this round. Okay, so now you should have 42 stitches after that increased round. We're now going to do another round of increase, but we're not going to be using no front loop or back loop, so don't be mistaken for that. So we're going to go straight into the very next stitch, going through both of those loops, so straight into that next stitch, and we're going to do 6 single crochets in the next 6 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6, and then you're going to do your increase on that next stitch, so 2 single crochets in the same stitch, and this is going to give you a total of 48 stitches at the end of this round, and I will meet you back. So after that increase round, and making sure you do have 48 stitches at the end of that round, we're now going to increase again for 54 stitches. So we're going to do 1 single crochet in the next 7 stitches. So as same as the last round, going straight through both the loops, no front loop or back loop, just simply straightforward 1 single crochet in the next 7 stitches, and then do your increase, and you will have a total of 54 stitches at the end of this round, and I'll meet you back. Okay, so at the end of that round you should now have 54 stitches all the way around. We're now going to do another round of an increase, and we're going to do 8 single crochets, and then we're going to do our increase, and we're going to keep working like that all the way around till we get to 60 stitches, and then at the end of that round you can fasten off, but make sure you leave a tail, and I'll be back anyway to show you to do that. So into the next 8 stitches of 1 single crochet on each stitch, do an increase, and that will give you a total of 80 stitches, and I'll meet you back. Okay, so once you finish that round and you've got a total of 60 stitches, we're now just going to fasten this off. So you're just going to do a slip stitch into that next stitch, and then just chain 1, and then you're going to cut your yarn a bit of a length, because you're going to need that for sewing. I've already cut mine, but that's roughly about how long I've cut my length. You can cut as small or short as you like, but just remembering you are going to need it for sewing purposes when we do the capelet. So now we're just going to fasten this off, so simply pull your yarn through and just pull that tight, and that'll make a nice little knot just here, and then you're just going to simply turn your hat inside out, and there is your sweet little hat ready. So now we're going to move on, and we're going to start working on the capelet, so we can just leave that to a side with the bear. So I'm going to pick up the yarn again. In your case it's going to be a black yarn. As I said all throughout the tutorial, I've been using grey yarn, so you can see, and we're going to start by making a magic ring. So make your magic ring, and then remembering to chain 1, and now you're going to do 6 single crochets into this ring. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6, and we're just going to take this tail, and we're just going to gently pull, and that will then close your ring. And then we're going to go straight into this first stitch right here, just here. You've got this little bit here, and then you've got this one here, so we're going to go into this one here, and then you're going to make a slip stitch, and then you're going to go into that very next stitch here, and we're going to do 2 single crochets. We're going to do 2 single crochets all the way around for 12 stitches. So that's 4, 6, 8, 10, and then the last 2 for 12. So that's now 12 single crochets all the way around because we've just done a round of an increase, and just pull on that again to make sure your center is closed. So for the next round it's going to be a 1 single crochet and then an increase, and we're going to do that until we've got 18 stitches. So go straight into that next stitch. Quite hard to see sometimes because it's so small at the beginning when you're working a magic ring, so I'm just going to give you a bit of a close up if you can see. So we're going to go straight into that very first stitch just here, so that's 1, and then into that next stitch is your increase. And you can, if you wish, put your stitch marker right in before you continue on to make sure you do get 18 stitches at the end of this round. I'll meet you back at the end of this round, so it's 1 single crochet and then increase for 18 stitches, and I'll meet you back. Okay, so at the end of that round you should now have 18 stitches. We're now going to get this up to 24 stitches, so I'm just going to remove off my stitch marker. And we're going to get this up to 24 stitches, and the way we're going to do that is 1 single crochet in the next stitch, 1 single crochet into the next stitch, and then you're going to do your increase, 2 single crochets in the same stitch. And also remember to put your stitch marker back in before you move on around, so you know exactly how many stitches you've got on the end of each round. So keep doing this please for 24 stitches. Okay, so once you've got 24 stitches on the end of that round, we're now going to get this up to 30 stitches. So we're going to go into the next stitch, and that is going to be 1 single crochet, and then into the next, that's 2, into the next for 3, and then you're going to do your increase of 2 single crochets in that next stitch. And remember to put your stitch marker at the end of each, on the start of every round, so you always put your stitch marker in on the very last stitch, so you know exactly how many stitches you've got on each round when you're working in the rounds. So at the end of this round you will have 30 stitches, so it's 1 single crochet in the next 3 stitches and then do your increase, and I'll meet you back at the end of this round. Okay, so at the end of that round you should now have a total of 30 stitches. We're now going to get this up to 36 stitches by doing 1 single crochet in the next 4 stitches and then do your increase, and always remember to use your stitch marker. So go on to the next stitch, so that's 1, into the next for 2, into the next 3, into the next for 4, and then do your increase, giving you a total of 36 stitches, and I'll meet you back at the end of this round. Okay, so at the end of that round you should now have a total of 36 stitches. We're now going to work 1 single crochet into the next 5 stitches and then do your increase for a total of 42 stitches. So going into that very first stitch, once again always remember to use your stitch marker to get the exact same stitches that you are needing for each round. So we're going to get this up to 42, so it's 1 single crochet in the next 5 stitches and then do your increase for a total of 42 stitches. So once you have got your 42 stitches, you're now going to do 1 single crochet in the next 6 stitches and then do your increase, and that will give you a total of 48 stitches, and I will meet you back at the end of that round for your 48 stitches. So 1 single crochet in the next 6 stitches and then increase. Okay, so once you are happy and you've got 48 stitches in that round, now we're going to do a 1 single crochet into the next 7 stitches and then doing an increase. So we need to do that until we get a total of 54 stitches at the end of that round. So going into that very first stitch of 1 single crochet and then into the next 7 stitches to do your increase. So you're going to go 1 and then 2, and this is where I tend to put my my stitch marker in. I know I always do I don't know why. I always go 1, 2 and then I put my stitch marker in that very first stitch. I don't know, it's just a habit thing that I do. And then at the end of the round I take out the stitch marker and I count all the stitches at the end of each round. I'm just going over this a little bit because I know when you're working in rounds it's like you know, it's easy to not have enough stitches or too many stitches, and you know, the key to getting your work done to the best that you want, and the key is to be so methodical that you have got that exact amount of stitches from each round. So that's why it's really important you must have the exact amount of stitches for each round when you're working in rounds like this. And it's very easy to be distracted, especially, you know, if you're in a noisy environment, or you know, while you're at home, or you've got your kids playing and your husband wants something or your wife wants something, you know, there's always some sort of distraction. So this is why, you know, I can't emphasize it enough that stitch markers are your best friends, and also counting at the end of each row is important. So yeah, we're going to do 7 single crochets into the next 7 single crochets in the next 7 stitches, and then do your increase, and you're going to keep doing that all the way around for 54 stitches, and I'll meet you back. Okay, so once you are happy and you've got 54 stitches at the end of that round, we're now going to move on to the next round, and this round is a little bit different to the other rounds. So what we're going to do, we're going to start by doing a 1 single crochet in the next 42 stitches. You're going to need to use 2 stitch markers here. So you're going to do 1 single crochet in the next 42 stitches, which you probably will fall somewhere around about here somewhere maybe, and then you're going to do 1 single crochet for the next 4 rows. But I'll meet you back when I say 4 rows. You turn for each row for 4 rows, but I'll meet you back at the end when I've got to 42 stitches. So go straight into that first stitch, go into the next stitch for 42 single crochets all the way around. I'm just gonna pop my stitch marker in there right now. So that's 1, 2, and I'll meet you back once I've got 42 stitches. Okay, so once you've done your 42 stitches going in that round, remembering where you are up to, just make sure you have got 42 stitches. So once you are on that last stitch of 42, we're now just going to turn, and we're going to work from the back, and it's 1 single crochet in each stitch around up to there, and then you're going to turn again, and you're going to keep doing that until you've got 4 rows of 42 stitches, and I'll meet you back at the end of the 4th row. So when you go into that first stitch, you're just going to go straight into that very first stitch from the back. So that's 1, into the next, and keep going like that for 4 rows, and making sure you are turning at the end of each row. I'll meet you back at the end of 4th row. Hey everyone, so I'm just on my last round now of my 4th round, and I just want to share just a little tip with you all. So when you go into that very last stitch, if you keep it quite loose when you turn and then you go to make a 1 single crochet, I advise you just to make that first single crochet just a little bit looser than you normally would, just so when you turn your stitches, I'll just do a couple here just to show you. If that was to be quite tight, it's going to be hard for you to see where that stitch is, and you might accidentally go into the side and start making more stitches, and you don't want that happening. So you just want to turn that when you've made that stitch, and you can just pop your hook in there just so it does, you know, so you don't get mixed up. So your stitches are 42 all the way around, and you just want to make sure of just to be mindful of that. didn't think to do that before, so I'm just going to show you that you know, it can be quite tricky if your stitches are quite tight, so you don't want to have it tight on the ends here, so you know where the last stitch is. So just keep on working like that, 4 rounds of 42 stitches of single crochets, and I'll meet you back at the end of this round. Okay, so I've just got one more stitch on this last round, and I can just about see it just here. So I'm just going to put that last single crochet in there for 42 stitches. Once you have done your 42 stitches in that round, if you could just go back and just make sure you count, just to be on the safe side that you do have 42 stitches on that round. So now we're going to move on to the next round, and I'm going to turn. We're now going to do 1 single crochet in the next 9 stitches. So once again, when you do this first single crochet on this very first one, I'm going to do mine fairly loosely. So that's 1, and then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then the last one for 9. Once you've got to 9, you're now going to chain 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6, and then you're going to skip 6 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and do 1 single crochet on that 6th stitch, like so. And now we are going to, I'm just reading off the pattern a moment, so 1 single crochet next 6, chain 6, skip 6, 1 single crochet in the next 12 stitches now. So I'm going to go into that next stitch and do 1 single crochet in the next 12 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and then that last one for 12. So now we're going to do another chain of 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and now we're going to skip 6 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and do your single crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I always just go back over to make sure that I am in the 6th space, chain space, and then that will look like that. This is for your ears for your bear. So now we're going to do a 1 single crochet in the next 9 remaining stitches. So into the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then that very last one there, my loose stitch, for 9. So just make sure, if you are if you need to go back over that, you can just pause the video and take it back, and you can go over that again, but you will have 2 little holes either side for where the ears are going to go, and then I'll move on to the next round. Okay, so for this next round we're now going to turn, and we're now going to do another 1 single crochet in that very first stitch. And remember to make these loose on your ends of your first, when you turn and you do your very first stitch in there. We're now going to do a 1 single crochet 42 stitches for 5 rows, and then you're going to tie off your yarn, and then you're going to sew in the tail. So we're just going to go straight into that first one, nice and loose, and then into the next stitch, and it's 1 single crochet, 5 rows, 42 stitches. I'll meet you back at the end of row 5. Also, I just want to mention, when you're doing your round here on the first round, you are going to go into the chains. So you're going to go straight into that very first chain. I know it's a little bit tight, so you're just going to go straight into there, and then into the next chain. That's 2, 3, 4, 5, and that very last one there for 6. I just wanted to make sure that you were going into each chain space of them 6 of the chains, and making sure you do have a total of 42 stitches at the end of each round. And like I say, be careful on these ends, make sure you can see that nice and clearly where each row is, and I'll meet you back at the end of the 5th row. Okay, so once you are happy and you've got 42 stitches all the way around for 5 rows, you're just now going to simply fasten off and just pull your yarn through, make a little knot with chain 1 at the end, and then you're just going to sew your ends in, and then we'll move on to the next step. Okay, so now you will have your 42 stitches of 5 rows. This is the bottom part of the capelet that we're going to be working on right now. And once we have done the capelet, we're going to sew the hat at the very top here, where the ears holes are going to be here, the hat in the centre, and then the rest of the bottom capelet around the bottom edge here. So this is the part we're working on now. So to work on this part, you're going to take your yarn, and you want to take some length and just thread that through a little bit so you've got enough for a chain of 15. So once you are happy with the amount of length of yarn you've just pulled, you're now just going to make a slip knot like so, and now we're going to chain 3. So 1, 2 and 3. So now we're going to attach that on to the bottom of here, because like I said before, we're going to be working along this side now. We've done with this side here, so now we're working on this back piece at the bottom. So if you just turn your work towards you slightly, you can then figure out where your stitches are. So I'm going to put my hook into that first stitch, but first of all I just want to get this in a decent position. So I'm just going to make sure that piece of yarn from the chain 3 is over that side, and then my other piece of yarn that's attached to my ball is on this side. I'm going to pick up my yarn, I'm going to hold my yarn like this with my hook, and I'm going to insert into that very first stitch here along the bottom, and I'm going to make a 1 single crochet. And then once you've got your 1 single crochet attached on, you're now going to do a 1 single crochet in the next 32 stitches along, but make sure you keep that as even as you can of 32 stitches, and then I'll be back. Okay, so now you should have your 32 stitches all the way across, and now you're just going to chain 3. So 1, 2 and 3, and then turn. So now we're going to do a 1 single crochet in the next 38 stitches, because we've got 3 either end. We've now got 38 stitches from 32 to 38. So now we're going to do a 1 single crochet in this chain of 3. So 1, 2, and then in that last one for 3. And then it's 1 single crochet all the way across, all the way to the end of your next chain of 3, and that will give you a total of 38 stitches. Please make sure you count your stitches at the end of that row. It's just one row of 38 stitches. Okay, so now you should have a total of 38 stitches going all the way along, making sure that you count your stitches, that you do have 38. So now we're going to turn, and remember to try and keep this extra piece of yarn that we have here just out of your way, for that chain of 15 that we'll be doing it later. So now we're going to do a 1 single crochet into the next 3 stitches. So we're going to go into that very first stitch and do 1, into the next for 2, into the next, that's 3, and then this next one is going to be an increase of 2 single crochets. So go into that next one and do your increase, so 1 and 2, and then you're going to do another 2 increase into that next stitch along, 1 and 2. So it's 3 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, increase and increase. And then we're going to do a 1 single crochet in the next 28 stitches, and I'll meet you back at the end of 28 stitches. So next is 1 all the way to 28, and I'll meet you back at the end of 28. Okay, so now you should have 28 stitches. So the next stitch is going to be an increase, so go into that very next stitch and do an increase of 2 single crochets, and then you're going to do another increase into the next stitch. So it's increase, and then 1 single crochet in these last 3 stitches, 1, 2, and then that very last stitch for 3. If I can get my hook in there for 3. There we go, so 3. So it's increase, and 1, 2, 3, and then I'll be back. Okay, so just double check that you have now got 42 stitches. So that's what I was doing, just checking 42 stitches, which I have. So now we are just going to turn, and now we're going to do a 1 single crochet into the next 4 stitches. So go into that very first stitch and do a 1 single crochet. So 1, 2, 3, and then 4. So it's 4 single crochets, and then we're going to do an increase, so 1 increase of 1 single crochet. So 1 increase, 1 single crochet, and then we're going to do another increase. That's 2 lots of increases, increase, 1 single crochet, increase, and then we're going to do a 1 single crochet, and then we're going to do another increase, and now it's 1 single crochet in the next 24 stitches, and I'll meet you back once I've got to 24 stitches of 1 single crochet. Okay, so now you should have that 24 stitches where we just left off from. So now we're going to do the same as what we've done before. So we're going to go and do a 1 increase in the next stitch. So 2 single crochets in the same stitch for an increase, so that's 1 increase. And then it's a 1 single crochet in the next stitch, and then a 1 increase into the next stitch, 1 single crochet into the next stitch, and then we're going to do a 1 increase into the next stitch, and then it's 1 single crochet in the next 4 stitches. So into the next 4 stitches, 1, 2, 3, and then that very last one for 4. Okay, so now you just want to make sure you have got a total of 48 stitches all the way along. So now we're going to turn, and we're just going to do a row of 1 single crochet of 48 stitches. So just going into that first stitch and do 1 single crochet each stitch all the way along for this row for 48 stitches, and I'll meet you back at the end to show you what you need to do next. Okay, so once you have finished doing that, we're now going to fasten off. But when you fasten off, make sure you do leave enough yarn for your 15 chains. So we're just going to, I'm just going to go into here and make a little slip stitch. And actually I'm just going to slip stitch into this top bit here, and I'm actually not going to fasten off here. I've just decided to do 2 little slip stitches here, and I'm just going to chain 15. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and then 15. So now I'm going to cut this, and I'm actually going to just fasten this off right here. So all I'm going to do is pull that through and pull that through and just make a little knot at the end of that there. And I'm just going to trim that because that's quite long, and I'm just going to leave a little bit of a tail. So he's just got like a little bit of a tail at the end of his tie, like a shoelace kind of look. And then on this side I'm going to do the same. So because we want to make sure that these are in the same place, which they are, because that's at the top and that's at the top. So I'm just going to insert my hook now into here, into this stitch here. I just want to make sure I get that in the right place. So I'm just going to pull that through, and now I'm just going to make a chain of 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and then 15. But I'm also just going to do one more for when we tie that off. So I'm just going to pull that through. That is incredibly long piece of yarn there. And I'm just going to take this second one, and I'm just going to try and get these two roughly about the same before I cut. I'm just going to go about here, so they're both roughly about the same length now. So there are your little ties on there for your little bear. So next is going to be sewing the hat onto the top of the capelet. And you want your hat, on the inside of your hat here, you might have a long piece. You can just sew that in if you wanted to, or just leave it inside if you wanted to and work with it. So as I mentioned, the side pieces that we've just done going around here, and it goes up like this, and you've got an ear either side. Your hat needs to be sewn in between those two ears, so make sure you straighten this up properly before you do any kind of sewing, or you might find you need to unpick it all. And you want to be about a row above from the top here, so you don't really want it coming past that top. So you want it up to about here, about a good row in there, and making sure you're not blocking the sides of the ears. And as you're working with sewing this in, you want to sew with your tapestry needle, obviously, and you want to go just underneath, inside and you want to just work in and then up. So you're going back up through here, and then once you pull that through, you're going back into that, and you're going through each stitch working around. I would recommend to probably try and sew quite close into where this curl is, so when that curls back up again, it's going to hide your little stitches here and all the way around. So yeah, just sew that around using your black yarn or whatever colour your capelet and your hat is, making sure it's the same colour, and just try and position that the best you can, making sure that your ears either side has still got room for that, ready for when you sew your hat on. And then I will be back. Okay, so once you've finished sewing your hat onto your capelet, you're now going to use your white yarn for the mask and the 3.5mm hook, and we're going to start by making a magic ring. So make your magic ring and then chain 1, and now we're going to do 4 single crochets into this ring. So 1, 2, 3, and then 4. Then you're going to take your tail and gently pull to close that ring. You're going to go into this first stitch, and we're going to slip stitch and join this round together. So now we're going to do an increase round of 2 single crochets all the way around for a total of 8 stitches, and I'll meet you back at the end of that increased round. Okay, so making sure you have got 8 stitches at the end of that round, we're now going to do another increase round. So to begin, we are going to start with an increase, so going into that first stitch here, we're going to do an increase. And remember to use your stitch marker from the last stitch. So increase, and then it's 1 single crochet in the next 3 stitches. So 1, 2, and then 3, and then we're going to do an increase onto the next stitch, and then we're going to do 1 single crochet in the next 3 stitches for a total of 10 single crochets. So in the remaining 3 stitches, 1 single crochet, 1, 2 and 3, and then just make sure you've got 10 stitches at the end of that round. So once you are happy you've got 10 stitches in that round, we're now going to do a total of 3 rows of 1 single crochet in each stitch, for 10 stitches of 3 rows. I'll meet you back at the end of row 3, and remember to stitch mark. Anyway, I will be back at the end of row 3 with 10 single crochets in each stitch. Okay, so once you have got 3 rounds of 10 stitches all the way around, your next stitch is going to be an increase round again, and it's going to begin with an increase. So I'm just going to move my marker out, and we're going to go straight into that very first stitch and do an increase, 2 single crochets in the same stitch, and then it's going to be 1 single crochet in the next 4 stitches, and then an increase, and then a 1 single crochet in the remaining 4 stitches. At the end of that round you will have 12. So it's an increase, then a 1 single crochet, and then another 1 single crochet, that's 2, and then 3, and then 4, that's 4 single crochets, and then do an increase, and then it's 1 single crochet in the next 4 stitches, 1, 2, 3, and then that last one there for 4. At the end of that round you should have 12 stitches. Okay, so I've just turned mine the other way round, and that tail end I've just tucked it inside nicely, because it's getting a bit difficult to work with the other way round, and I always find it's easier to turn it the other way. So now we're going to do one single crochet in the next 12 stitches for a total of 2 rows. I'll meet you back at the end of the second row. Okay, so now you should have 12 stitches of 2 rows. We're now going to do another round of an increase. So your first stitch is going to be an increase, so 1 and 2, and then it's going to be one single crochet in the next 5 stitches, and then an increase, and then one single crochet for the rest of the 5 stitches, and that will give you a total of 14 stitches at the end of that round. So increase, one single crochet in the next 5, increase, and then one single crochet for the next 5, give you a total of 14 stitches, and I'll be back at the end of that round. Okay, so once you've got your 14 stitches, you're now just going to do a one single crochet all the way around for 14 stitches. Okay, so once you've done your 14 stitches all the way around, we're now going to do another increase round. So it's going to be an increase on the first stitch, and then a one single crochet in the next 6 stitches, and then another increase, and then 6 single crochets on the last of the 6 stitches. That will give you a total of 16 stitches at the end of that round. Okay, so at the end of that round, it's now just going to be a one single crochet all the way around for 16 stitches. Okay, so once you've got your 16 of one round of single crochet, we're now going to do an increase into that next stitch, and then we're going to do 7 single crochets, and then another increase, and then another 7 stitches, and that will give us a total of 18 at the end of that round. Okay, so for the next round, it's just going to be a one single crochet all the way around for 18 stitches, and then you're going to fasten off, and then you're going to leave enough yarn for sewing for later on, and then we'll move on to the main mass. So one single crochet all the way around, fasten off, leaving a tail of yarn for sewing. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the main mask using the white yarn again and 3.5mm hook. We're going to start with a magic ring, and then chain 1. So now we're going to do 6 single crochets into the ring, and then it's an increase round for 12 stitches all the way around. So do 6 single crochets, and then you're going to do 2 single crochets in each stitch around for a total of 12. I will meet you back at the end of that second round of your increase. Okay, so once you've got your 12 stitches all the way around, if you just pull on that tail, that will close your centre for you. So now we're going to do a one single crochet and then an increase, and we're going to repeat that until the end of the row till we've got 18 stitches. So going into that first stitch, and it's just a one single crochet, and then into the next stitch is going to be an increase, and we're just going to work like this all the way around. One single crochet, one increase, and then one single crochet, one increase, all the way around for 18 stitches. Okay, so now you should have a total of 18 stitches. So now we're going to get this up to 24. So what we're going to do into the very next stitch, just right here, and we're going to do one single crochet and then another single crochet in the next stitch, that's 2, and then we're going to do an increase, and you're going to keep working like that all the way around for 24 stitches. So it's one single crochet, one single crochet, and then an increase, and I'll meet you back at the end of that round. Okay, so at the end of that round you should now have 24 stitches. So now we want to get this up to 30 stitches by doing one single crochet in the next 3 stitches, and then do your increase. Keep working like that all the way around until you've got 30 stitches. Okay, so once you've got 30 stitches, we're now going to get this up to 36 by doing one single crochet in the next 4 stitches, and then do your increase. And also remember to keep using your stitch marker to make sure your stitch count is right, and keep counting your stitches as well. So 1 single crochet, next 4 stitches, and then increase all the way around for 36 stitches. Okay, so once you've got your 36 stitches, we're now going to do 1 single crochet into the next 5 stitches, and then do an increase for a total of 42 stitches. Okay, so for this next round it's going to be a 1 single crochet into the next 6 stitches, and then an increase for a total of 48 stitches. Okay, so once you've got your 48 stitches, you're just going to do a 1 single crochet for 2 rows. I'll meet you back at the end of the second row of 48 stitches of single crochets in that round. Okay, so now you should have 2 rows of your 48 stitches. We're now moving on to the next round. So now we're going to be working in the back loop, and we're going to do 1 single crochet into the next 6 stitches and then a decrease. So go into that next stitch. Remember, we are using the back loop only, which is this one here at the back. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6, and now you're going to do your decrease. So insert your hook, pull your yarn through, 2 loops on the hook, into the next back loop, pull through, 3 loops on the hook, and you're going to pull through all 3 loops. That's 1 decrease. So now we're going to do that again of 1 single crochet into the next 6 stitches at the back loop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6, and then do your decrease using the back loops only again. And now we are going to do a 1 single crochet into the next 3 stitches. So 1, 2, and then 3. That's using back loop only on them 3 stitches as well. So now we're going to do a chain of 15. So chain 15 and then 1 same stitch. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and then 15. Get some more yarn. So now we're going to do 1 single crochet into that same stitch where we just done our 15 chain. So go straight into that back loop again and do your 1 single crochet. And now we are going to do a 1 single crochet into the next 3 stitches using back loop only. 1, 2, and then 3. And then we're going to do 1 single crochet in the next 6 stitches. 1, oops, did I do my decrease? Did I need to do decrease? Sorry, just 1 moment. Nope, just 3 stitches, 15 chains, 1 single crochet in the next 3 stitches, oh then decrease. Sorry, yes, it's after you've done your chain of 15, it's 3 stitches then decrease. So I'm just going to, sorry, I'm just reading off this at the same time, so we nearly went wrong then. 1, 2, 3, so you do your loop of 15, 1, 2, 3, back loop only, then do your decrease. There we go, there's the decrease. And then it is a 1 single crochet for the next 6 stitches using the back loop only. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6, and then do your decrease. And now we're going to do another 1 single crochet into the next 3 stitches. So 1, 2, and then 3. And now we're going to do another chain of 15 again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 and 15. 1 single crochet into that same space we just done the chain, using your back loop. 1 single crochet, and now we're going to do a 1 single crochet in the next 3 stitches and do your decrease over into the next stitch. 1, 2, and then 3, and now we're going to do our decrease. And now we're going to do 1 single crochet into the next 6 stitches and then a decrease. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6, and then remember to do your decrease. And then it should look a little bit like that, because this is the ears for the mask, and if we just turn it this way, you can then kind of see now how the mask goes with the ears part here. So now I think it's time for us to start thinking about attaching the nose, the nose part of the mask. You might want to start stuffing that. I've just gone ahead and used a bit of old scrap yarn because I'm actually out of toy stuffing. So I've just used a bit of old white yarn I'm not using no more. So I'll leave you to do that and then I'll be back. Okay, so when you are ready to sew your nose on, you want to make sure that the nose is somewhere near the bottom of the mask, because there is your ears, so you want it to be centralized in between the ears and slightly below the center. So when you can try and gauge where you want that to be, I'm going to put mine a little bit lower down again, just somewhere about here, and then I'll be back once I've sewn this on. Okay, so that is the nose now sewn on to the mask. Now I'm going to put the eyes on, and the eyes are about 4 stitches apart and 2 rows high. So I'm just going to get my safety eyes. So 1 and 2. So I'm just going to make sure I count actually how many apart, because I don't want to just stick that in there, and remind you these can come straight back out anyway. So I'm using the safety eyes. You might not be, you could be using different eyes to me. So 2 rows above and about 3 or 4 stitches apart. So 1 and 2, I'm going to go here, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to just stick that one there. Actually, I'm just going to go 1 row above again, just to make sure. I'm just going to go 1 row above and across. And then the next one, 1, 2, 3 and 4, just about here. I can get that through. Quite tough because these are the wider eyes, just have to twizzle it in there. And that looks a bit off. That needs to come out. So it looks like I haven't actually sewn the nose on very great. So I'm just going to go here, a bit wider. It's quite difficult sometimes when you're trying to get things right. So how many stitches apart have we got? 1, 2, 3. I think that's about okay. I'm going to just leave it at that now. So I think that's okay. So I'm just going to tighten that in, and then I'm just going to put the backs on and just push them on the back. And they are very tough because these are the wider eyes. In fact, I'm going to do that off camera because I could be there for some time and I don't want to waste any more of your time with me trying to put the safety eyes on. So there's my eyes on for now. I'll do the safety backs later. Next is going to carry on doing some more. So we're now on row 11 and it's 1 single crochet in the next 5 stitches and then a decrease. So we are now going to go, could be a bit tricky because you've got your nose sewn on, but just hide that back. I'm going to carry on going round in the back loop. So it's now 1 single crochet into the next 5 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. And the squeaking of my hook is so annoying. So 5 and then a decrease. So 1 and then into there. So that's 1 decrease. And now we are going to do, we're going to continue doing that until the end of the row, until we got 36 stitches. So I'm going to go back and put my stitch marker in, and then I'll be back to show you what you need to do on the next round. So it's 1 single crochet, next 5 stitches, and then a decrease. Okay, so as we get up to the ear part, I should have just stayed on camera till this bit. So when we get to this ear bit, we are still going to work into the back loop, but we're going to go and use this part of the ear here, we're just going to go straight into the back of that part, and we're just going to do a 1 single crochet of a back loop just there, and then we're going to continue on with the back loop like so, and that will then count as 1 stitch. So when we count the stitch at the end of the rows, it should then match up for 36 stitches at the end of that row. So I'll just keep moving on now of 5 single crochets and then decreasing until I get to the end, and then I'll be back. Okay, so now you should have 36 stitches at the end of that round. Now we're going to do another decrease round of 1 single crochet into the next 4 stitches. So go straight into that next stitch for the next 4 stitches and then do a decrease, and you're going to keep working like that all the way around for a total of 30 stitches. Okay, so now you should have a total of 30 stitches. Now we're going to get this down to 24 stitches, and to do that we're going to do 1 single crochet into the next 3 stitches using back loop only. So it's 1, 2, 3 and then do your decrease, and I'll meet you at the end when you have got 24 stitches. Okay, so you should now have a total of 24 stitches. We're now going to do the next round, which is 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches, and then do your decrease, and you're going to do that till you've got 18 stitches at the end of that round. So 2 single crochets and then a decrease for 18 stitches. Okay, so for your next round it is going to be a 1 single crochet decrease all the way around for 12 stitches, and then it's just going to be a round of decreasing all the way around till you get to 6, and then you're going to sew the hole closed. But my recommendation is when you do close your holes shut, I would keep your little loops out for the ears, and I'm actually just going to finish off working on this round. I'm going to make sure that these are actually hanging out, these loops, and I'm going to continue working around like this with the loops sticking out, and then when I do sew it shut I'll be sewing it in between these two, so we've still got we don't lose the ears. I'm not sure, maybe on when we do this mask next time, if I was to do this again, whether I would actually turn this inside out and do the nose, so the nose onto the back part rather than on this part here. So without me actually undoing it all and trying again, but looking on the picture it looks to me that's the way it's been done anyway, because the loops are actually on the inside, not on the outer side. So that's how I imagine this would go, because the loops look to me they're on the inner side, not the outer side. So it's no big deal. So we're just now going to get this down to 12, which is 1 single crochet decrease all the way around, and then it's just going to be a row of decreasing for 6, and then we're just going to sew it closed, and I'll be back once I've finished all that. Okay guys, this is really going to make you laugh now. As I was closing this up, these kept sinking in, and I was thinking, this is just not going to work. Where have I gone wrong here? I've read everything, I don't understand it. Maybe I'm just going to have to get in touch with Aixan, because I don't think this is going to work. Have I done something? Where did I go wrong? Anyway, I've solved the problem, guys. What it is, where we done the rounds earlier and we had to skip, well not skip, but to make it back to, I think it was 38 stitches around, and I said just go straight over and do your back loop of 1 single crochet in the center, and we were left with a tiny little hole either side. So what we need to do is I'm going to insert my hook like I did on the last side and just simply pull that through. Why didn't I see that earlier? So that's what we have to do. We'll just try and pull that through. I've managed to do the first one, and now I can't do the second one. So here we go. Ta-da! There it is. So yeah, I thought I'd better share that with you guys, because I'm working in the rounds and I am like thinking I might have to do this tutorial all over again, because I am doing this super wrong. But now I have just found that there was 2 little holes either side, and that's where they go. So they pull out of each side. It just literally get your hook in there and try and pull them out. I'm so sorry about that, guys. I didn't know. I have been reading the pattern as I'm going along with the tutorial, so I might have to read back over the pattern just to see if she does actually state that in there. She might not have done, I'm not sure, but now I know that, and now you know that too. So I'm really happy about that. That is really pretty cool pattern, to be honest, because you know, I was just thinking there's just no way this is going to work. I was trying to understand how I was going to get this done, and you know, it just made me laugh so much, because I just thought it was so cool the way that Yarn It Aixan has actually done that. It's made me laugh, and I thought it was really cool. So yeah, so keep working in your rounds. keep going round, so it's one single crochet decrease and then decrease until all the way around, and then simply sew the hole shut. I'll be back after I've finished that bit anyway. Okay, so I am super impressed. The mask is done, and all you do once you've sewn in on the end, just push that in and that will sit nicely, perfect for your bear's face. I am absolutely loving this pattern right now. That just made my day. Really cool. So yeah, remember earlier when we were doing the bear and I said I need to just close these pieces up? Well, that's exactly what I'm going to be doing now. So I'm just finishing off these last few little niggly bits and pieces to the lovely plague doctor. Remember, he's not meant to be scary. He's here to tell us and remind us to keep our hands clean. He is so cool. So yeah, just gonna keep weaving in and out of here just to try and get these sewn in a bit better, just around the top. I'm only doing around the top edging. You don't even have to do this if you don't want to. This is just me now being fussy. I'm a bit of a fuss pot when it comes to finishing for some reason. Also, I will be putting a little mouth on here. To do that, you're just going to want a little line here and then a little smile. So to do that, just get your yarn, go through the back of the head, you come out, make sure when you come out the tip of the nose, go down one, and then just go across one way, back in, and come out the other side, and then back through, and then pop back through, back out. I have got, obviously on my other tutorials of the bears that we've been doing, I think I do tapestry of the face for the Frontline Hero bear, so you could always go refer back to that if you need to, if you need a bit of help with the mouth. Because basically I'm running out of time here, so I'm just going to finish off sewing this in and then he is completely done. So I'm just going to pop this on his face and just show you all how he is looking. And I think he is looking super cool. I'm just going to do this to show you all. And I totally get now where this pattern, you know, with the face mask, when I thought, oh crumbs, this isn't going to work, I totally get how that's worked now. So now I just need to put his little hat thing on, the cape, hat, is it the cape and the hat? So I'm just going to pop that on. And there he is. And isn't he so cool? And I hope you are all happy with yours. You can subscribe to my channel for updates when I do new tutorials. I'm also on Facebook, Crochet Infusion at Facebook. I'm also on Instagram. Thank you so much to everybody who's already subscribed to my channel. It really is amazing, and I just want to thank you all so much for being on my Crochet Infusion page as well. I do try and do lives on there, but sometimes it's a little bit tricky when I've got quite a lot of things on as well. So I do try and, you know, do all as much as I possibly can. If you've got any questions, YouTube videos, I don't know what it is, something to do with the children thing, so I think I've got it set that, you know, children can watch this and make things. So unless of course if it's not a child's one, but I'm sure a child would be, you know, okay with a parent. So that's why you can't comment on my videos, but you can like them, and I am on Facebook as well, so if you do need to have any questions or anything, I'm always happy to help. And thank you all again so much for being here today, and I will see you all again soon. Take care all, bye.